Tom had a wonderful play in the Cherry where he actually presents most of his work, Carl Cherry Center in Carmel. And it was interviewed, The Mystery. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it, but if you didn't, I hope you will get a chance. So maybe I should move to questions, and since I know that in your first job and in your second job, you've been a man of the stage and you always loved the stage. So let's talk about childhood and those early influences that made you the man of the stage.
Well, when I was 7 years old in Chicago, I had a flamboyant and rather marvelous grandmother. My grandmother loved the theater. Mainly, she liked burlesque. As a 7-year-old, she took me to a burlesque show, and I was hooked. Now, burlesque in those days, you have to understand, today they're doing that on the stuff in burlesque they're doing on Disney today. But in those days, I loved the showgirls, the comedians who told jokes that I didn't understand, but I just liked their looks, I liked their manner. I was at the same time, I saw the theatricality of the show. I knew it wasn't top drawer. I knew the girls' shoes were stuffed. Were a little bit dark, and I also knew that the sets were a little bit tatty. Didn't make any difference. And today, if I have to say, what is my burlesque? It's still innocent as it was. It's not. I'd love to do an old burlesque show today. You can't do it today. It's exploiting women. They put me in jail. So I can't do it, but in those days, I love it. Those are my early days.
Coach, what did it really like? What was it day to day as an experience?
Well,
did you enjoy it?
I had a bookstore later on in Berkeley, and I've always been a writer since early high school. Been a writer. And I love books. I love books because my father read to us as a family. And so I said, I really need, if I'm going to write, I really need to go to one of two places, New York or Los Angeles. First Los Angeles, I was on the West Coast. And so I landed in Los Angeles, met a few people.
What year was it?
1900. It was, let me see, it was 63 or 64. And I met a few people, and I found myself a job in the business, as we call it, and I think they still do, as many of you have heard of cue cards. Well, I was a cue card man. I don't think I have to explain what cue cards were or are. And then I graduated to the point of making coffee, being a dialogue coach. What did I do? I had a script in my hand, and I would go to the actor and say, "This is going to change. You're not going to say, oh well. You're going to say, oh gosh, or whatever." I would go there. I would hold the script. I was behind the camera. Now this is a television, 4 cameras. This is not movies, 1 camera, although that's changed a little bit now. And so I did that for years. I worked I traveled with Bob Hope for many, many years. I worked for 10 years for Carol Burnett, Julie Andrews, and Lucille Ball, and in that capacity. And all the time writing and submitting my material to the various production companies. I also worked for 10 years for Laughter, and I sold material, sketches, comedy sketches, to the producers of Laughter. I was not a member of the Writers Guild, and so I know details about that. Now, what else do you want to know?
Well, I would like to know what were the first things that you wrote, for example, maybe even before you started to put stuff on stage. Do you remember the first thing that you were writing kind of for yourself?
Do you remember the first things I wrote for television?
Well,
And I did, just sketches for television. So I'm not sure what.
no, I wonder when you first started to work on playwriting.
Oh,
Was it only when you moved to Carmel, or did you
Yes.
have like
Yes.
legend?
I came with, lots of material that didn't sell. That's no surprise to anybody who writes. But I moved here in 1987, and I did first show at the old USO, which is YMCA now on Lake Estero. We did it was called a USO show. It was a musical variety show, and for the Alliance on Aging fundraising. And it was very successful. They served them dinner, and they charged $150 or whatever. We did the show, and it was a big success. The second show that I did, which I wrote, was a show called Marlene from Berlin to Hollywood to Berlin. The story of Marlene Dietrich in the war years. And that was at the Sunset Center, where I'm happy to say I'm probably the only person who fell from the stage into the pit. But I survived that during rehearsal.
I think that because you were so close to dialogue in your first career, I wonder if that helped you to have this ear for a dialogue and make you a playwright.
I love writing and I really mean that. And I play every character, man, woman, I play every character, and I get into that character to write for each of those.
So do you remember your first impression of when you entered Carl Cherry Center of Arts, and when you first saw it, and when you started first working?
I saw a play at the Carl Cherry. And I think many local people might know her, Lay Littlepage, who was a singer, actress, and she was doing a play about Beatrice Lilly. Again, these names are referenced. These are people who have been long gone, but they are historical theater people, and she was wonderful. But I saw the theater. I said, my golly, that's a wonderful small house, 49 seats, a nice stage. I'm going to try to play it, and I understand my plays are with 2 or 3 people. Can't get more than that on that stage.
Biographical dramas, yes?
I'm sorry?
Biographical dramas, you call them, yes? Often.
I didn't understand the word that you
Biographical dramas.
yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm Polish. I speak with an accent.
It's my fault. I didn't hear you. I've written several biographical biodramas, and I have to say that they've all been successful. We booked for 4 weeks, and in 3 of them, we played the 4 weeks. We closed, and 2 weeks later, we opened again for another 4 weeks. So they became very, very popular. The most popular probably was a play about Dorothy Parker. People used to stop in on the street and Dorothy Parker. Of course, it was a pop. Did she say this? I don't know that she said it. It was pretty funny. And that was very successful. The Gertrude Stein play was very successful. And Miss Ella Fitzgerald also. Why about these women? No, they were all literary. I can tell you that the research is great fun. I love doing research. And So, and then the other biodrama was about 3 years ago on called Bucky Lindy, Charles Lindbergh, where he's being interviewed much later in his career.
So let's talk about your choice of those iconic, strong women. You know, they're all not your stereotypical woman, should I say. They are all very, very outspoken, extremely outspoken when it comes to Dorothy Parker.
Everyone is a woman who is assured, who's enormously talented, and they are very appealing. They're scary to death. I don't know if you want to have lunch with them, but they were strong women, and successful, and wonderful writers, including Zelda Fitzgerald, who's not really known for her writing. Her husband was known, as you know, as Scott Fitzgerald. But in the play, she describes that she wrote many, not plays, but sketches that he actually co-opted and put his name on it. And she says, you know, this is serious business. So she died, unfortunately, in a fire in an institution.
Is it fair to say that you're a feminist?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. Who isn't these days? We better be.
So let's talk a bit.
Good for you.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit more about Dorothy Parker, because I think you had two different plays that you had at different years at the Cherry about her. One in 2010, one in 2018.
No, just one play, Parker.
Okay.
I mean, just one play.
All right. And we also have a form of a book that you published with those.
Yes, this is the book that I published. It's called Three Women, Three Voices, Three Plays. And it's Dorothy Parker, Zelda Fitzgerald, and Gertrude Stein. I'd like to, I know you asked me to read something, but this is about character. And I'm not going to take much time on this, but I think you might find this interesting in terms of writing and this is the wrong page. I'll find it here. Here we go. That when I said I play every character in the beginning of a play has to be identified. And how do you identify? You do it with certainly with sign with body language, but also with a speech. And here is Dorothy Parker, is Gertrude Stein first speech. She's sitting in a chair, she's writing, the curtain comes up, the lights come on, she's writing, and finally she looks up and says, "This is brilliant." I always know it'll be brilliant because it is brilliant. I never rewrite, I never edit. I know it'll be right because I write, and I know it'll be right. I'll put it aside from Miss Toklas, typewriter. She types, Miss Toklas. I write, she types. Now, we know now what kind of a character Gertrude Stein is from this. Miss Toklas, by the way, never appears, but she's referenced very often. Miss Toklas is out buying cheese. Miss Toklas is in the bedroom. Miss Toklas is out with friends. And at the very, very end, you hear the door creak, and the key go into the door, and she says, Miss Toklas is here. Come in, dear. I want you to be all these people. The curtain is out.
So that's Gertrude Stein. Could we get another fragment, perhaps, about Dorothy Parker?
Dorothy Parker is here, and she is introduced off stage by somebody that says that she was a member of the Round Table, etc., etc. We're happy to have her here at the university tonight, and she's just sipping a glass here that looks like water. And the first thing she says is, I thank the nice young man for his words of introduction. I generally don't copy to all the people and the pros of today when they speak about special people, celebrities, rock and roll fans, icons. History hasn't been kind to writers, but then writers haven't been very kind to days, she said. In the old days, that would have been gin. That would have been gin. If I'd been Christ at the Last Supper, I'd have opted for gin instead of wine. Well, we all have our own tastes. So she defines herself right in the beginning as a little tough and no nonsense.
All right, let's talk a bit about the newest play that you showed at the Cherry. I mean, the interview, the mystery.
This is a lot of gin.
There is another.
You want to talk about what?
I want to talk about your recent play at the Cherry that I had a pleasure to watch and I enjoyed profoundly. There is another female character, another historical female character there whose identity was top secret. And my question is it still top secret, or can we talk a bit about the play and what is really going on there?
Well, the play was called The Interview. And it's the story of a newspaper man who's down on his luck. As we all know, newspapers are having a really, really tough time, with the exception of the Weekly. And he's in a small burg in and he has he's the society writer. He's everything. So one band he tells about the newspapers. He said they used to be called shoppers, and then they were called throwaways, and now they're called newspapers. So, at any rate, he has an assignment to visit a rather eccentric painter. She's a 90-year-old woman, and he meets her, and she is and she says, no, I'm a very private person. I don't know why. All you want, I want you just to talk about my art. This is what goes on. She shows him his art, and here it's over here, over here, over here. It's against the wall. And finally, he asks questions, but he's intrigued by her. So she's Jewish. She has been in the camps. She married an American soldier, came to this country, divorced, married again, divorced, married again, divorced, and wound up alone. He gets to the point where he finally gets to the point where I don't think you're telling me that. It turns out, I think you have another story to tell. The story she tells and is forced to tell is that she is really the 90-year-old Anne Frank. And so he knows he has this great story, and then it all falls apart. And lying to him, etc., etc. But at the end, she writes them a note. She said, I owe you an apology, she says. I know that I'm not always I don't always tell the truth. It's not out of malice, it's just to keep myself going. I am not the person that I told you of. My name isn't Susan Anderson. My name is Anna. And so we don't know. Was she Anne Frank? Was she Susan, whatever name that she gave? She's a liar. She's psychotic. She's delusional, or she's Anne Frank.
What is the reception of the play? What kind of comments did you hear from people? I was shocked to the last minute when I watched the play, and I'm curious about other reviews.
Well, they were hooked. Get into the fact, what if? And that's all I want. That's all I want. Nothing, I couldn't prove it, I didn't want to prove it, and they're willing to say, yeah, kind of interesting. So it's a mystery.
Let's talk about community theater or regional theater. For example, those plays of book that is also available at local bookstores are based on it's available in local bookstores.
It's on Amazon. This book is on Amazon, and at River House Books in the Crossroads.
So I would like to talk about the community theater that you encountered in Carl Cherry and the team that you're working with on a regular basis.
Well, let me say that community regional theater is in big trouble these days. You've read it in the press, I know. After the pandemic, where audiences coming back, they have not been. To produce a play today is very, very expensive. I do simple plays with minimal costumes, and I run a play for about 4 weeks. It cost me, this is before I pay my bill, it cost me about $10,000. I do that, and over the years, I've been able to break even, or maybe make a little something. I assure you that it is a very little something. So I could keep going that. But let's say Pat Rec in Carmel, MPC has closed their theater. They can't afford it. I just noticed an ad in the Weekly that Western Stage at Carmel is still going, and they're producing plays there. Good for them. They take it out of Carmel. It's called the Western Stage. It's an entity unto itself. But regional theaters have a tough time, and it's the money. There's no question about it. And also, our audiences are different. They're younger. Traditional plays, these plays are very, very special. This book is not. It had to be. This had to be privately printed. This book wouldn't sell to the general public. Today we have what on Broadway we call what are called jukebox musicals. They're about popular singers. They are about the popular music. So the whole idea, the whole concept of the theater that we have known in the past has changed in this theater.
What are you working on right now?
Thank you for asking. I'm working on a play called Age is Only a Number. And it's an amusing look at the process of getting older and aging. And it's a comedy. And it's about 8 or 9 sketches with 4 actors, all very, very good actors I've used before, in readers' theater. In other words, they will read the sketches, but I assure you that in a minute and a half after they've started reading, you will believe that they are in a scene someplace. Readers' theater. Do you know readers' theater? It's very, very interesting. And it's fun, and actors really like it because they must have memorized their lines.
So I'll soon pass the mic to the audience. My last question perhaps would be, you are in your 80s now. I wonder,
I'm just 20 years old.
So you cannot answer the question if the person in their 80s is in fact wiser than the person in their 20s or 30s or 40s, as I hope.
I'm 90 years old.
All right.
So I can't answer your question.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you guys have questions. I certainly hope so. For Tom Parks.
I have a question. wonderful actors that you worked with when you were in Los Angeles. I want to know who the funniest woman you've ever met is in person.
Well, let me just say, the most professional, that's Lucille Ball.
That's what I figured you were going to say when you dropped her name and understand.
Lucille Ball was the smartest person on the set. Lighting, set, direction, costume. She was the smartest person on the set, always. And everybody, we all knew.
Thank you.
Would you like to hear a couple of stories?
Yes, of course we would. Once the grinding is done, I think. There we go.
Her daughter, this is the first series that she did, with Fezzi Arnaz. This is much later. She did a series with her daughter, and the scene is we're in rehearsal right now, and there's a line that refers to little Lucy, who's going up the stairs, and little Lucy must have turned and said to her mother something about, I don't want to do that, or something, and Lucy called off and smacked her like nobody's business. The stage manager calls lunch. Well, we come back after lunch. We're ready to start, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Little Lucy walks down the stairs with Lucy standing at the bottom and Lucy wearing a football helmet. And they grab and they kiss, and they all made up. I was in the wings one time, and I have to thank Lucy for this. As a dialogue coach, I'm standing in the wings one time, and she said to me, "What are you doing here?" And she didn't have a great sense of humor. "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm here with the dad." She said, "Well, what else are you going to do? What do you want to do?" And I said, I want to write. This job. Thank you, Lucy. One time we were standing in the wings again, and we always had guest stars. And she's ready to go on. The guest star is on the stage. She's got to get, and she turns to me and says, "Who's that?" I said, "Steve Martin." I said, "Oh, thank you." She was tough, and her humor. If you were brave enough to kill her in the right way, she loved it. There was a director that turned out to be a very good friend of mine, and he directed a couple of my shows here, who at one point said, "All right, Lucy, move to your left." And she found out a character. He said, "Why am I doing that? Why do I have to?" He said, "Because I'm the director." And she did it. And there was another director who refused to call her by her right name. He would call Agnes, go over here, or Nancy, when she loved it. She just loved that kind of humor, that somebody would give her, she understood that. Anyway, she was unforgettable.
Thank you. Wow, it sounds like you were lucky to have met her, if nothing else, for her writing advice to you.
Yes, she was, I had been writing, but get out of here, this job. This is not a job.
Does anyone else have a question for Tom? All right. You can ask and I'll repeat.
Okay. Did you ever do a memoir of time spent in Italy? I have a vague recollection of a book by Tom Parks, a lot about spending a year in Italy.
No, but I'd like to get the residuals.
Or they are in Italy, right?
Yeah. No, this is the only the book that I've written, and this is 3 plays.
Yes.
So first to comment, I really agree with a lot you said about drawing people into the theater, especially young people. But I don't think that the theater is strictly COVID related. And I wonder, is there a way to draw people, young people, into the theaters? It seems to me that if your parents never took you to a play, and you're all digital when you grow up, you just don't care about the
Yeah.
wonderful theater experience that you can have.
Tom, I saw some people straining to listen to the question. I'm going to repeat it if I may.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so her comment was that she doesn't believe that it's entirely COVID related, the lack of people going to the theater now, and is wondering what there is to be done to draw younger people into the theater, and made the point that, you know, many kids haven't had their parents take them to, so how do they become exposed? Did I get that right? Okay.
Well, some of us got very lucky. My folks read to us, took us to museums, took us to the theater. I just got lucky. There are many, with all of the activities of youngsters today in school, I mean, mothers don't stop. They're going to soccer, to summer, but they're mostly, as I understand it, they're mostly sports events. But there are necessarily, according to do, in my high school, we had a drama department. And that's where I first, that's where I first got involved in the theater. To bring young people in, I don't know. It's just we have a lot of theater on the peninsula, and a lot of people want to act. How many? There are 5 or 6 small theaters that do something new Cannon Theater.
New Cannon Theater, that's a new.
I just read about that. So it's there, but schools are probably not a place anymore. It's a parental thing. I mean, it's part of learning about cultures. See how is that lucky? I don't know. When I have my first child, I'm going to try to coach them.
I actually just feel like
I'll introduce him to you.
thank you. That's what I was looking for. I just had a thought. You were talking about burlesque and how that you wouldn't be able to do that anymore, and how that kind of that genre changed. You were talking about burlesque that you loved doing in your early career, but that you wouldn't be able to do anymore. But I wonder if you thought about the way that current drag performances echo earlier burlesque performances, and what you think about that.
The only drag that I like is coconuts and hairy legs. It's the only kind of drag that I like. But I don't know. I haven't ever seen one of those. Except at the sacred once in a while.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's, I can't comment on that. I think there's something over there's a theater group called, help me out.
Paperwing?
Hmm?
Paperwing?
Yeah.
Yes.
They do a Sunday drag. What do they do? They sing. Is that it?
Yeah, they do singing, dancing, full performances.
No.
It's very fun. You should check it out. I think it would be interesting. Are there any other questions for Tom before we chat amongst ourselves and go on with our day? All right. Well, Tom, I have had so much fun listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.
for the time.